Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So, I have planned to start a series of videos where I will show you how to do certain parts of your project for mobile programming course. Of course, they're not going to be similar to what you are required to do in your project, but I will be following a similar concept so you would understand how to do or how to implement it in your own project. Um, Please keep in mind, not all of the functionalities will be shown because some of them are very easy to be implemented, and you should know how to figure it out and how to do it. But just so you get an idea of what exactly is required, um, that is the whole purpose and reason of doing this. So in today's video, I will show you how to basically show a list of users, which is mm, kind of like the view slash delete feature that you have, where you have a list of items and then you can delete them by swiping uh, any of those items. And then you can also have a plus button at the top of this screen, which will allow you to navigate to the add or edit screen. That I will not do it in this video, I'll do it in the next one. But for now, I will be basically showing how to do just the view slash delete. Okay, so here I have a blank project. The first thing I would do is I will go to the main storyboard and I will figure out what screens I need. At the moment, I have the view controller. I will just delete that, and I will also get rid of the view controller file because I don't need that right now. What I will do is I will search for navigation controller in the object library. I will drag it and I will drop it. This basically gives you a table view controller connected to a navigation controller. Okay, I want the navigation controller to be the first screen, so I will choose is initial view controller from the attribute inspector for navigation controller, and you can see it has the initial arrow. Now I will name this, for example, the title. I can, I don't know what's wrong. Anyway, um, I can change the title to, let's say, users. Okay, and then this will just show me a list of users. Now I'm assuming that this list of users will have two kinds of users. Okay, one user will be, let's say, a teacher, and the other one will be a student. Okay, so the basic idea of this app or the project series is that I want to create an app where both teachers and students can use it, but students can so teachers are assigned to certain courses to teach, and students are basically registering in these courses. Now, I will not do the whole idea, but I'll show you parts of it, um, like how to do those. And it's very similar to your project idea as well, if you think about it. You have different types of users, and one kind of user is basically allowed to book certain things, right? So now I know that I want to show a list of users, but that list of users can have users that are teachers or users that are students. So for that, the first thing I will now do is I will think about what I need, what classes I need to represent these different kinds of users. So right now I have three classes in mind. Now you can do this in many different ways, but I'm showing you the way that we expect at your level right now. So I would basically create a new group here and I will call it models. Okay, and this is where all your custom classes will go. So I will add a new file. You can just press Command N, also it works the same way, and I will choose a Swift file and name it user for now. Okay, and I have a class user. Okay, Now this user can have a few things as their attributes. For example, they can have an ID, which is, I will not use ID, I can just use username, because that's also going to be unique. So their username, their password, their name, okay, and maybe when was this account created on. So created on, and then date. Now because this is a class, you need to provide your own initializer, and for that you can use the one that is auto-generated here. For created on, I can say if the value is not provided, just take the current date as the created on. So for example, if today the user was created, then today the date for like the today's date is basically the creation date, right? So that's the user class. Now I need another class where I can represent or save information about a teacher. So I would say class teacher. It inherits from the user type because a teacher is also a user. So it inherits from user, and then I can say the extra attributes a teacher can have is maybe, for now, have var department, which is a string, and then var office, which is also a string, which is nothing but their office number. And again, I need init. I'll just use the normal one, department string office. Oh, I need the other variable. Okay, so init, use this. I don't want to override it. I can just say username, password, name. I don't need creation date. I can just say department string and then office string. And I can say self.department is equal to department, self.office is equal to office, and then call the super initializer with username, password, and then name. In this case, we're not taking the creation date because we're assuming it will by default pick the default value, which is the current date. So we have a teacher's class. Now we want one more class, which is basically the student class. So student, and then here I will say class student. It inherits from user, and maybe we can keep a variable for their major. What major are they studying in this, let's say, app or whatever. I will get rid of override, username, password, name, no need for this, and we can just replace this with major and then string, and then say self.major is equal to major super.init, which is username, password, and name. Okay, so we have all the classes now. Now these classes basically represent one user. How are you going to structure one user? They can be either a teacher, they can be either a student. That's how we're going to structure them. A teacher will have department, office along with all the other attributes of a user, and a student will have a major and along with all the other attributes. So after that, what I can do is I need to have the list of let's say users that I want to show. So in this table view, it should have multiple users to show, right? Where am I going to store that list? I will, for now, and this is what I expect you to do as well, create a new group for helpers. This is where all my helping code will be, which is not really required, but it makes things easier for me. So here I will add a new file called, let's say, app data, and then I will call it app data here as well. I will have a static variable called users, and it is nothing but an array of user objects. Okay, Now in the beginning, if you see, it is empty. This means create a array of users, but it's empty. It has nothing in it. So I will have another method called load. I will create a method called load, and ideally this method should load all the data that you store in a file. Okay, all your data or for the app needs to be stored in a file. Okay, when you call the load method, it should load all of that data from the file. Okay, that we will discuss it on another day. But after you've loaded everything, you can do an extra check. You can say if users dot is empty, then at this point you can allocate sample users. Okay, and that I will use it here. I will maybe create it at the end. I will say var sample users, and then it's nothing but an array of users. The first one I will keep it as a teacher. I'll use my own username 123, my name, department is edict, I think, and then office is 26, whatever. Okay, and then the second one I will create it as a student. Let's say John Doe, password is 123, name is John Doe, and then major is programming. Okay, so I can say that users will be equal to, because this is static, so this also has to be static, so user should be equal to sample users. Okay, now all your sample users will be stored in users. Now we have now a place where we can store all the users that we want to have in our app. Okay, now we can think about the design. Okay, so here the design can have, like, a user can have can be a teacher and a student, right? So we'll have two different ways. I mean, I can do it in one cell. Okay, okay, let me back this up a little bit. Since we have different types of users, we want to show them differently on the table view controller, right? If you want to show something differently on a table view controller, you need to create different custom cells. Now you can show them in one cell by, you know, changing things, like hiding something, or, you know, unhiding something, or you can create different designs and then use them in your code differently. All right, so right now I will just use one custom cell. You can use multiple cells. Okay, so here I will select the cell, and when you see this small box, that means you've actually selected the cell. If you select something else will be shown on the right side. So select the cell, change or make sure the style is set to custom. Use this, I mean, give the identifier for the cell as user cell. I'll copy it for now. Okay, and then selection accessory, maybe have disclosure indicator, that's up to you. And now we will style it. Okay, I need a few labels, for example 1, 2, 3, and I will select all of them from the left side, and I will put them in a stack view. Make sure it's a vertical stack view. Alignment is leading, fill distribution is fill equally. Make sure all of them have a spacing of 3 or 5 or whatever. It's up to you, however you want to design it. And the constraints, if this is selected, it's good. And then 0, 0, no spacing on the sides. This one I want it to be a little bit different than the others, so I'll make this the headline, and these two I will make them subheading, or you can make them anything else you want. Okay, now this is going to be the name of the user. Okay, if it is a teacher, this will be their department and this will be their office. If it's a student, this one will be their major, and we will hide this for now. Okay, so I will now that you have a custom cell, anytime you create a custom cell, actually you need to create a custom file that is going to be linked to it. All of those kind of files will go into a group called views. Okay, here I will create a new file, Cocoa Touch. It should be table view cell. I will call it user table view cell. Now add it here. Okay, and then you can get rid of this code. We don't need it at the moment. Save it. And now once this cell is selected here, you want to make sure that it is linked. So you need to go to Identity Inspector here and select User Table View Cell. Okay, now if you press Option and click on this file, it opens on the other side, like it divides your screen. Now I want to link this label, all of these labels, to the file. I will call this name LBL for label. This can be, what did we say, department or major label, and this can be office label. Okay, now we need a function for this, so that every time this cell is created, you can call this function to configure all of these what is it called, all of these labels with certain data. Okay, so I will create a function called configure. Okay, and then in the bracket I will send user, actually this should be small u, and then user. Okay, now in this I will check, first of all I can just write the name, right? So I can say name label dot text is equal to user dot name, and then I have to check now. So if let teacher teacher is equal to user as teacher, so you're going to cast the user to a teacher, and if that cast is successful, then you can say department major label dot text is equal to teacher dot department, because you'll not be able to get department if you don't cast it. So for example, if you just try to write user dot department, it's not there because user class does not have department, teacher class has department. So you need to cast the user object to teacher and then get the department. The same thing for office. So office label dot text is equal to teacher dot office. Okay, I can just add a word before it, office, with teacher and office, teacher dot office. Now if it is not teacher, then obviously it's going to be student, right? So I will check else if let student is equal to user as student, then you can say department major is this, department major label is this, and this should be student dot department is not there, so we'll choose major. Okay, now finally this office label, this one, the last one, it should be hidden if it's a student, and it should be visible if it's a teacher. Okay, so I've already set it here, but I will just check again. So basically I can say office label dot is hidden. It is hidden if user is student. Okay, so if user is student, if it's true, if you okay, if user is student, that means this will give you true. So is hidden will be true. If user is a teacher, then user is student will be false, and in that case is hidden will be false. Okay, so we've done all the setting here. Now we need to basically add it to our actual code file. So if you know, if you remember, if you've practiced it enough, you know that every screen, apart from the navigation controller and tab bar controller, every other screen needs to have a code behind file. So this table view controller here needs to have a code file. And because this is a controller, I will maybe create, a folder or a group called controllers. And then in this, I will create a new file for the table view controller. Okay, call it users, and then create it, and make sure that you link it. Okay, anyway, make sure that you link it here before using it. So you select the table view controller, go to identity inspector, and then choose users table view controller. Now they're linked. Now what you can do is go press option, click on users table view controller, and it will open side by side. Get rid of all of this code for now. This comment. Okay, our table view controller will only have one section, so number of sections method will return 1. Number of rows in section will return how many ever users are there. Now remember that we created an app data file, if you remember, right? We created an app data file which has the list of users that we're going to work with throughout the app. Now users initially is empty, so we need to load it, right, to get either the sample users, or if you write in the future the code for reading from the file, that will be written here as well. So in either cases you need to load it, and the best place to load data is when the app is launching, and that is basically in app delegate. In app delegate you have a method called did finish launching, which is basically when the app is at the starting point, is launching basically. Before returning, you can just call app data dot load. So this will go to the file, get all your data. If there is nothing in the file, then what it does is it will just create sample data for you. Then once this is done, I can have a list of users here. I can say var users is equal to app data dot users. Okay, now this will, when this screen is about to come up, it will go to app data, it will get all the users, and it will store it in a variable here called users. So I can use it here as users dot count. So this will return how many ever users are there in the users array. Now here I need to configure the cell, and remember we gave this cell an identifier which was user cell. Now so far what you've done is you just change this to this. From now on we're not going to do that, because you have so many cells. Even if all your code is correct and you just mess this up, your whole app crashes, and we don't want that. So in the helpers folder, I will create a new file, a new Swift file. I will call it keys. Okay, it's like a bunch of keys like we have for all, your house key, your car key, or whatever. Then I will create an enum called cell. Okay, and then I will create a case for user cell. Okay, and then I will make sure that this is a string, so I can use it as a string. So anywhere I want to use this, I can, as a string, I can use it. Okay, so now I will go back and change this to cell dot user cell dot raw value. Now I don't need to remember how the user cell was written. I can change it, but I only have to change it in one place here. For example, the E becomes big. It's fine. Everywhere it will take the same effect. Okay, so just remember that all your anything that's in a quotation and you're using it as an identifier should go here. Okay, you can create different enums. For example, you can have another enum for identifier, for segue identifier, whatever you want to create. Anything that is a string should go as an enum. Okay, so I have a cell called user cell, and it has a default. It's not the default table view cell. We need to cast it to user table view cell because we created a custom cell, right? So now once you have the cell, you can say let user is equal to users, get the current user that you need to show. Okay, and then call cell dot configure. Did I call it configure? Yeah, configure user. Okay, and I think that should be it. So when you run it, it should show both the teacher and the student. Now if you see, the teacher has the office and the student does not have the office, and that label is hidden. Okay, so if in the future your sample or your data also changes, for example app data, I can add another teacher. Okay, and let's say Fatma Bakr edict. Okay, now if you run this, the third will be a teacher again, and that will also have, like, that record will also have a office number. Now that's done. This is basically your view. Okay, and if we go back, you can add a plus here, like for example search for bar button item, put it next to the user, next to the title, and change the system item to add. So now it becomes a plus, and when you click on plus, it should take you to the add screen where you can add a user. Now we want it to be editable, right? Meaning that if I swipe any of these, I should be able to delete them. So for that, you already have these kind of methods in comment section. You can just use them here. So for example, to make a table view editable, you need to you can, I mean, this is up to you. You can use this, but the one that we're actually looking for is this one. Okay, this will basically allow you to delete with the swipe. Okay, if now there are different editing styles, and it checks which editing style is being invoked. The dot delete is when you're trying to delete a row. This is what we want to use. We don't need to use this one. So when you're trying to delete it, for example, you need to first delete that user from the array. Okay, delete them from your actual app data, and then delete it from the table view, which is delete the row itself. So there are three places. Right now I will delete it here, users dot remove at index path dot row, then app data dot users dot remove at index path dot row, and then finally delete the row itself. Now for example, I want to delete this student. I'll click on delete and it's gone. That's good, but the thing here is there could be a case where the user they didn't try to do it, it was accidental, they accidentally clicked on it. So you need to give them an option to, like a second chance. So for example, if they click on delete, you ask them, do you really want to delete it? And if they say yes, only then you delete it. So that is again like extra caution or validation. We can do that here as well. But you have to think about the easier way to implement these alerts, because you're going to have so many alerts. Are you going to create them every single time, or are you going to create a template and use it with your code? Okay, so what I'm going to show you is how it is best to implement it. If you don't want to implement it this way, it's okay as well, but it's not the best code in that way. So in my helper section, I'm going to create a new file. I will call it alerts. Okay, and then I will say extension UI view controller. It's not going to show up because you need to import UI kit. So UI view controller, and then I'm going to create a function called confirmation. Okay, I can take the text, actually title, it's called title string, message string. For now, we need to add something else also. We'll look at that later. And then I will create, for example, let alert is equal to UI alert controller. This is the title, this is the message. Because message here is optional, you can make this optional as well. And then dot alert. Okay, and then let confirm is UI alert action. We can call this yes. You can change this however you want it to be, and because let's go with default, and then let cancel is equal to UI alert action. This one will be cancel, and this is dot cancel, and then alert dot add action confirm alert dot add action cancel, and then finally present alert with animation. Okay, now what I can do is I can just call it from here, confirmation, delete confirmation. Are you sure you want to delete this user? Okay, now because you've written the code in that method, and it's in this method that where the user actually presses yes or cancel, because you want to run a code, the code for deletion only when the user presses on yes. On cancel, it should just stop. On yes, it should actually delete it, right? So so now we need a handler here. Okay, and I can call this action in. We need to run some code here. The handler is basically a code or a closure. You should have studied this in the closure chapter. It's a closure that will, and a closure is just a block of code. That block of code will run when this action was pressed. So for example, when yes was pressed, so then that piece of code that we've written here will run in that moment. So what I can do is I can take a confirm handler here. Okay, it will be a closure that takes nothing and it returns nothing. So empty closure basically, and I will run it here, confirm handler. Okay, And I can close this for now. Confirm handler. Now, anytime you pass closures as variables or as parameters, you need to add escaping just after the colon. Okay, so once you do that, it should be fine. If I build this, okay, now it's saying that you're calling this method, but you don't have any handler, the confirm handler. So I'll add a confirm handler, and in that handler, I'm going to run all of this code. So only when the user presses yes, I want to run this code. Now, anywhere you're using any class variables here, you need to write self. Okay, so now when you run this, okay, and I try to delete this, it will ask me, do you really want to delete it? If I press cancel, nothing will happen. But if I swipe again, delete, yes, it goes away. Okay, so this is very similar to any view/delete that you need to do. In the next video, I will show you what happens when you click on this plus button. It should go to another file where you add the user, and if I select any of these, it should go to the same file, sorry, the same screen, and at that point it should edit. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. I hope this was helpful. You need to be following this approach of organizing your project. If you just have a bunch of files there, that's a lot of marks being deducted from the project itself. But I hope this was helpful, and yeah, all the very best. See you in the next one.